We're going to switch a bit to talking specifically about safety and about harms. And we're also going to talk about the crisis in decision-making that we're having, and that we're making decisions based on uncertain data and non-transparent data. But first, we're going to hear from Ernest Ramirez, who's going to tell us about his experience, his family's experience with vaccine injury.
It'll work? Yeah. I'm from Edinburgh, Texas. Um, excuse me. I was a father of a 16-year-old son, a single parent. I raised my boy since he was a baby. He meant the world to me. I got the vaccine to protect my son. And after in March, April, they're announcing how it was safe for teenagers. Me and my son have never been apart. We're always together. He was my best friend. I always told him it was me and you against the world. He was a good, at the age of 7, he wanted to play baseball. So I ended up coaching Little League Baseball for 7 years. He was a heck of a baseball player. And he was telling me he wanted to join the Air Force. So I said, good, that's good. I'll back you up on anything you want to do. He joined ROTC in high school. He was always full of smiles. Anybody that knew my son would see he was happy. I wasn't rich, but I gave him everything he wanted. We didn't lack for anything. We used to go fishing, camping, do everything. We got the Pfizer vaccine because I thought it was to protect him. I thought it was the right thing to do. It was like playing Russian roulette. My government lied to me. They said it was safe. Now I go home to an empty house where I used to wake them up, I'd give them a hug and a kiss, tell them I'm going to school, don't miss school. I'd get home from work, he'd come running out. He knew when I'd get home, he'd come running out, give me a hug. I'd give him a kiss, a hug. What do you want to go eat today? Like I said, he was my baby boy. Everybody knew we're always together. Like I said, next week is his birthday. You know where I'm going to celebrate his birthday at? While everybody, once we leave here, they're going to forget about what we're doing or what they talk about, what we said here. They're going to be enjoying time with their family and kids. Thanksgiving, I'm going to spend at the cemetery. Christmas at that cemetery. They need to quit pushing this on their children. I lost mine. Y'all need to protect yours. They're trying to target the 5 to 12-year-olds. We're going to have more deaths in our hands than they plan. And they say it's worth the risk. It wasn't worth the risk to me. My son was the world. He meant the world to me. They could never give him back to me. That's all I want is my son back. So don't make the mistake I did. I did it because I thought it was the correct thing to do. It wasn't. It was not. Like I said, I've always said I love the hell out of my country, but I don't trust my government anymore. I'm here because I'm Junior's voice. I'm doing this in my son's honor. If I can protect 1 or 2 children, that means the world to me. And I'm going to continue this fight. I don't know why I ended up here. Something told me to come here. And I know this is not the end of the road for me. I'm going to continue. I'll find out where the next stop is. We need to protect our children. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Mr. Johnson, thank you. I really appreciate you talking to me and helping everybody, not just me, everybody, every one of us that's going through this deal. I mean, like I said, what they did to my son, they knew what was happening. I consider that murder. Because in December 17th, 2020, they did a study, and they knew they caused heart conditions in teenagers. Why wasn't this information released until October 1st this year? If we would have known this, my son would be here with me. So I figured, like I said, they murdered my son. And the other people that are suffering, these kids, with all these side effects, that's child abuse right there. I mean, why isn't something being done? I mean, this should be pushed. We don't let anybody hurt our children. We put our lives in front of our children. Why are they doing this to our kids, man? Like I said, I have nothing else to lose. I mean, everybody needs to stand up with me. We all need to fight together. At least do better tests to make sure we're not going to hurt any more children. I'm sorry, thank you.
Ernest, thank you for sharing your painful story. We are all so sorry for your loss. This is real. I wish the agency heads were here. I wish more of the mainstream media was here to listen to these stories. I would just suggest we hear the stories from the vaccine injured, and we'll move to the academics next. So that would be my suggestion here. I think that'd probably be best. So if we could go on to Kyle, if you're ready. Now, please get your microphone right up to your mouth so that people can hear the stories. This America needs to hear this.
Well, first of all, for anyone who is just maybe catching it right now, I hope that you go back and listen to Ernest's story, because what he went through is something that no parent ever wants to experience and no one should ever experience. Before I started my speech, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Fauci, to the FDA heads, CDC, NIH, everyone for not showing up to this meeting and not listening to us. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you have our interests at heart. This message is kind of for you. It's a message on how what's happening has broke my heart literally and figuratively with our country. My name is Kyle Warner. I'm a 29-year-old professional mountain bike racer and 3-time national champion. For most of my life, I have focused on being as healthy and positive as possible and inspiring other people to do the same. Growing up without much money and with a household that was broken, family battling drug abuse, prescription drug abuse, and addiction, I never really felt like I belonged to much of anything. However, I spent each morning before school with my hand over my heart, pledging allegiance to the flag. Thousands of times I spoke these words: one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Being a part of this country inspired me to chase my dreams and granted me the freedom to do so. This spring, when the current administration was urging young, healthy Americans to get vaccinated to help end this war on the pandemic, I stepped up. I wanted to serve the greater good. I wanted to help fight this war, not because I was afraid of COVID, but because my country asked me to. You told me, this vaccine is safe and effective, period. And I believed you. This time, I ended up with my hand on my heart for a different reason. In June, I joined the rapidly growing number of young men who develop pericarditis post-mRNA vaccine. That is the inflammation of the liner surrounding the heart. That condition, along with POTS and reactive arthritis, have completely brought an end to life as I knew it. I have been bedridden, unable to work, and unable to exercise for months. I fear that my career has officially been ended. Listening to these stories today and looking at the VAERS database, it is easy to see that we have a serious problem arising. But you guys already know this. The real question is whether or not you will stand up to your favorite pharmaceutical lobbyist in defense of the American people you are supposed to serve. We were told we were fighting a war against the pandemic, and the question in the air is, will you leave your troops behind yet again? I'm not asking you to end the vaccine program by any means. All I'm asking is for some transparency and acknowledgement of what is happening, so that we as a country can have an honest discussion of the risks. I believe where there is risk, there must be choice. And without acknowledging that people are being seriously injured and dying, we are doing a great disservice to the American people. It is estimated that Moderna and Pfizer will make around $60 billion in revenue this year from COVID-19 vaccines. And with the rollout of boosters and mandates, it seems like much of that is destined to be recurring revenue. We need to set up a fund with a portion of vaccine proceeds to help heal and study injured Americans and compensate the families who have lost loved ones due to complications of the vaccine. This is the first ever mass administration of mRNA vaccines, and the drug companies need to compensate us if they are going to be testing on us. Do you know why we stopped saying the Pledge of Allegiance in school? It's because the new one nation, under siege, completely divisible, with liberty and justice for all corporations, doesn't sound quite as good. I'm asking you, human to human, please do the right thing and help us.
Thank you, Kyle. Doug Cameron, as a farm operations manager from Idaho, permanently paralyzed following vaccination. Doug?
My name is Douglas Cameron. My name is Douglas Cameron. Prior to April 5th, 2021, I was a very healthy, physically active, 64-year-old when I received the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine at my workplace. I was encouraged by my employer to get the vaccine. The day after the vaccine, on April 6th, I started experiencing side effects I believe were related to the shot. I lost bladder control, suffered ED, my legs felt odd, I had a cinching sensation in my hips. Over the next few days, my symptoms worsened and I became alarmed, so I went to the ER, explained that I'd gotten the vaccine and what was happening. I was tested for COVID and tested positive. Blood work and an MRI were done, and I was sent home. 3 days after that, I told my wife I felt like I drank poison. My whole body felt different. I went to bed at 10 o'clock at night and woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning paralyzed from the diaphragm down. I was transported to the hospital and admitted to the COVID-19 unit. Took several days to figure out what was happening. The doctors were uncertain how to treat me. They'd never treated anybody with these problems before, and they could not decide on a diagnosis. Eventually, they found out I had a blood clot in my leg. My entire spinal cord had swollen and hemorrhaged. I aspirated on water, placed on a ventilator. I was in ICU for 2 weeks. I was worried, concerned. My wife panicked about my condition. My life as I knew it was gone. All totaled, I spent 105 days in St. Luke's Regional Hospital, St. Alphonsus Rehab Center in Boise, Idaho, and the University of Utah's Craig Nielsen's Rehab Hospital. I have had multiple MRIs, CAT scans, EKGs, X-rays, spinal angiograms, spinal taps, autoimmune blood tests, muscle biopsies, everything has come back negative in an attempt trying to pin my paralysis on my body and not the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Today, I am an unemployed paraplegic who's learning an entire new lifestyle. And the only thing I did between full health and my current condition is take a shot. I am real, my symptoms are real, and my life forever has changed. And that is real. This has affected, these stories you're listening to has affected husbands, wives, children, brothers, sisters, friends. Please pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. We'll hear from Suzanne, and I believe it's Kelly. And then we have to go back to a different order because we have slide presentations, and we've got to do that in order. So Suzanne Suzanne Newell is a triathlete from St. Paul, Minnesota, diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and reliant on a walker or a cane to walk following vaccination. Suzanne?
Thank you. My name is Susanna Newell. I live in St. Paul with my husband and 2 teenage children. On April 13th, I very willingly followed the recommendation of the CDC and received my second Pfizer shot. At that point, my whole life changed. I'm currently on disability, but I work in corporate social responsibility. I was previously an active long-distance biker and triathlete. I had no known underlying health conditions, and I live a very, very healthy lifestyle. I was used to high energy, highly motivated lifestyle. I love keeping my body and my mind strong and disciplined. Since I became injured, I have very little motivation or energy, and I'm in a constant state of extreme fatigue. I struggled to retrieve words. I was valedictorian in my high school. And to remember things, I can't concentrate or focus, and my brain is in constant fog. And I'm aimlessly wandering through my brain, and it's torture. I developed a rash on my forehead. I constantly have loud ringing in my ears. My once strong body aches constantly. I have no relief for the pain in my joints, except for acupuncture. It's like I aged 40 years overnight. I'm intermittently dizzy, my vision is blurry, my right pupil is not dilating properly, my right leg has extreme burning pain, and I also get muscle spasms and twitches, and I have internal vibrations. I am now a frequent flyer at the doctor with very few answers and many, many painful tests. I see a neurologist, rheumatologist, cardiologist, gynecologist, neuro-ophthalmologist, and physical therapist, among others. Most doctors are overworked, and they're unaware that this condition is even possible. So each visit, I have to fight to be believed and not written off as anxious. After 2 nights in the hospital at the Mayo Clinic, and several follow-up appointments, my Mayo Clinic rheumatologist told me there is no plan B, so I guess this is a arrivederci. For those of you that don't know, that's Italian for saying goodbye. I'm Italian. I would think they would be most interested in my case. It's been more than 6 months and most symptoms are worse, not better. I've been diagnosed with small fiber neuropathy and an autoimmune disease. But getting to these diagnoses was a struggle. Again, as this is a relatively new and unheard of in the medical community. I have a strong support network and a savings account that I can lean on. However, I'm concerned about those who don't. This is not a pandemic of the unvaccinated. This is a pandemic of trauma. We're unnecessarily traumatized due to our cases being overlooked, misdiagnosed, and hidden. We aren't being believed, and our faith in media and the government is faltering. We are now being mandated to do something to our bodies that we know can cause problems. We think at a minimum the public has the right to know this is a possibility before they make their choice to be vaccinated. Mandates will not stop COVID. It will just continue the divide and cause feelings of anxiety. People will naturally fight, flight, or freeze when they feel threatened. I wasn't afraid of the shot when I received it. I was excited to do my part for my country. But where is my country for me now that I'm injured? I would recommend that instead of what is currently being done, that there's a safety net for the vaccine injured. It needs to be established immediately. We also need to protect our children with transparency of the true medical impacts of the vaccine. There needs to be accountability as well for those who stand to profit from keeping these injuries hidden like Big Pharma. Thank you very much for supporting the vaccine injured and allowing us this platform to talk. To those who are willing to listen, I just hope the rest of the world opens their ears soon. Thank you.
Thank you.